This is the FunBelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Folks, to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Razor, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sun Belts.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. It's Guys, we are at episode 219.
Oh. I thought this was like 200 and it was going to be a very special episode. We'd have some guests from the past, maybe Commissioner Gill giving us a personal welcome. But then you're like 219. So
sorry to let you down once again there, Jeremy.
I'm a little let down about that.
One away from a fairly round number.
That's right. It's not even like a round number. We're at 219. My weight.
You wish. Guys, it's been a crazy weekend. We had the Texas State overtime win going coast to coast to beat South Alabama, the Jaguars.
Incredible.
Highest point total of the season, though, with Barry Dunning connecting for 46 points, but still not enough to get the Jags a road win.
I read somewhere that was the second highest total ever for a Sunbelt player. Maybe in a Sunbelt game. I don't know if it's in all games at all times. I don't know, but that's pretty impressive for Barry Dunning Jr.
Additionally, the Cajuns went on the road and got a win at Troy.
Ooh.
Which leads us to that log jam that was sitting atop the Sunbelt Conference men's basketball standings. It is no more. It is Shane Metlin's Fighting Dukes that
Just
are now
one
the sole
team.
leaders
Yes.
in the standings. Shane, what do you say? 4 in a row to take that top spot in the standings.
Yeah, and it's 9 in a row in conference, as they had the only loss recently was in the MAC Challenge. So, as I said before we started recording, Tibbs, a month ago would not have guessed this at all. I mean, they were basically just kind of hoping they could be a top half of the conference team at that point, after getting blown out really by South Alabama and App State on the road. You know, well into January, the topic at almost every press conference for Preston Spradlin was, why aren't you winning any road games? And then they turn it around, and impressive coaching job by him, I think, at this point.
Yeah, they were looking good. I was watching that game between the Dukes and the Eagles, and they had the Eagles sort of well at hand. Eagles came back, and then the Dukes took care of business at the end. I thought that was a pretty good win for JMU, holding on to maintain that first place. Pretty good.
On the women's side, Arkansas State lost.
Hey,
Jeremy.
we don't have to talk about that. Let's move on to some of the other bits of news. We knew that Arkansas State was going to have a tough time. They have their last 4 games on the road, and yes, against ODU, and I forget what the other team that beat them, but it's been tough.
Coastal Carolina.
Oh yeah, Coastal. And Coastal's pretty good, but yeah.
Winners of 8 straight, Coastal Carolina sitting right now in that 4th spot. But they do have kind of a tough schedule down the stretch here, as they will host Old Dominion and App State. I'm sorry to bore you there, Jeremy.
I'm just tired.
Women's basketball.
I love it. Hey. I love women's basketball.
Only James Madison because of the Big Russians.
Yeah. There's Big Russians, hard to beat.
ULM got a home win against Louisiana Lafayette and celebrated 50 years of women's basketball, bringing back their Final Four team from the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Yeah, how they look? Are they all looking in good shape?
I think a couple might have still been able to suit up and get some double-digit scores.
It's always cool. All right.
Arkansas State still not getting it done on the diamond, but the Raging Cajuns are, with Andrew Hammond, Herman, throwing a complete game for the Cajuns as they take 2 of 3 from Nebraska. South Alabama, Troy getting big wins on the softball diamond. I'd throw it to y'all. Where do y'all want to start on our episode 219?
On very special episode 219. I think you got to start a little bit with men's basketball. I mean, it's kind of coming to a head here. Like we had mentioned, I think last time we met, Texas State's going to have some determination of what's going to happen with the Final Four, the top 4 seeds going in. They went in. South Alabama came in, and they couldn't overcome Texas State by Dunning Jr. and his massive amount of points that he made. Now I think they take on JMU as their last opponent, right, Shane? And then before they take on Troy. So Troy, they go down to Louisiana at like an incredible buzzer beater that that Troy must be kicking themselves right now, allowing that to happen. Arkansas State still sort of sticking around, put like a nearly 100 burger on your ULM, Tibbs, which must have been hard to watch, but it was senior night at Arkansas State, and the seniors had to go out with a nice bang. So still exciting. Still nothing is set in cement. I think the only thing set in cement, Jane, was the ladies, the women's team, or the women's side, the Dukes of the Lady Dukes. Is that what you guys call the Dukes?
Just the Dukes. I think
the Duchesses?
Somebody told me that once upon a time they may have been like the Duchesses or something.
Okay, all right. But
They're just the Dukes.
They officially have the regular season title. So congratulations to the Dukes.
Yeah. You talk about Texas State, they're getting their say in who ends up winning this thing. Let's point out that ULM also.
Yes.
They played Arkansas State here recently, had a chance to do that. But their 2 victories against South Alabama are the difference right now between JMU and South Alabama at the top. And JMU's got to go there on Tuesday. So they could the Warhawks could be the one who decide who wins.
And Arkansas State still has to go to ULM. Tell me, Tibbs, what's the secret to beating the Jags? Because you guys have beat them, or you guys, I'm sure I'm saying that. You guys, the Warhawks have beat them twice. How is that possible?
I think that they were just overlooked. I think South Alabama was had a little too much swagger. And then I think that also in that second game, because if you remember, they had to play back-to-back, South Alabama kind of came out pressing and trying too hard to make up for that previous loss that they had. I think, though, this week, they're going to get one of 2, whether it be Arkansas State or James Madison, but they're going to get one of 2. So you better make sure Brian Hodgson has plenty of Zens or whatever that magic powder is that he has with his White Stanley before he invades Fant Ewing there on Friday.
I tell you, I think Jalen Bolden, man, that guy's the real deal. He looked really good out there. So, it's not like the Warhawks were without weapons. Let me tell you something about old Coach Hodgson. So, let's see, when was it? I guess it was Wednesday? Yeah, no. Tuesday before the Wednesday game, right? No. I'm sorry. Thursday after the Wednesday game. Thursday. I'm so sorry. Actually, you know what? It was Friday. It was actually Friday, the day before the ULM game. At 5:00, we get a email from Arkansas State University Athletics. Hey, Coach Hodgson wants to have a press conference at 5:30. So half an hour. So I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is he announcing that he's leaving the team? Did one of the players decide they were leaving the team? Does he just want to tear a new asshole onto somebody? I don't know. I had just posted a story about being a little worried about the team. Maybe he just wanted to yell at me in person. But you know what he wanted to do? He just wanted to chat about basketball. It's just like sitting there, yeah, hey, to ask me anything, I'll let you know what's going on with the team. This guy's a little dinged up. Nobody's really, upset about what's going on. Everybody's still pretty confident. So it's kind of funny that he just puts out this sort of impromptu press conference. Hadn't had one all year, Tibbs. All year, no press conference. He always speaks to the press after games. He's available like for his radio show at the pizza place. but never really had like a weekly press conference. Hadn't had one all year. Last year he had one every week, so it was a real big surprise. And it was just pretty much, hey, I just wanted to talk some hoops with you. So,
And that's why we can't get him on the show, right? Is because you pissed him off, and it's personal that he won't talk to you, and B, he's not going to have anything to do with the show.
he loves me. He offered to get, I was asked if he could give me a chili recipe. He said he'd look one up for me. So I'm looking forward to this chili recipe. So here we go.
He seems like a guy who would have a good chili recipe.
Yeah. He would like have like a secret ingredient that he wouldn't tell you about. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. This chili recipe is going to be missing something.
But Jeremy, on the scale of Shane to you at Sunbelt Media Days with Butch Jones, where would you rate how you would feel if he were to come on the show?
Oh, well, Butch Jones. I think what you're going to get with Butch Jones, you're going to get a lot of guarded, coach speak. He's very nice and personable, but he's going to have a set of talking points that he's going to stick to, and he's going to have well-practiced answers for them. And then he'll be really nice and say, hey, you guys need to come down to the football field someday, do your show live. It'll be great. And we'll be like, yeah, but we'll never do it. Be that kind of thing. With Hodgson, you never know. If we brought Hodgson over here, first of all, he'd probably start talking about how dumb I was or how do you stand being with this guy? And I'd be like,
how do we get this guy on? How do we get this guy on? Like Shane, make it happen.
Shane's going to make it happen? You don't think I can make this happen?
I don't know.
I can make this happen. You know what? All right. Next week, after we destroy ULM at Monroe, Tibbs, and he's in a good mood, I ask him to come on to the show. That's our bet. If Arkansas State destroys the Warhawks last game of the year, I'll get him on the show. How's about that?
Well, so I'm supposed to say, okay, Keith Richard, your last ever home game coaching at your alma mater, the place you helped build and rebound from heavy APR sanctions. Hey, would you mind tanking that one so that we can get an interview?
Yeah. I mean, it's just another game for him.
I think Jeremy's just offering to make this a win-win for you, Tibbs.
Either
way, fine.
Yeah. But listen to Shane, the voice of reason. I'm not trying to drive a wedge between you and Coach Richard. I would never think to do that.
Yeah, you would.
By the way, how come Coach
psychological warfare?
Where's Richard? He should be on this show. He should be on this show for to tell us about his game plans for the last two games of the season in his career at ULM.
I'm waiting for a stress level to reduce. We'll have him after retirement.
All right, that sounds cool.
So what else do we have there to harp on? You see what I did there, Jeremy?
My name's Harper. I get it.
There was one other bit of men's basketball news. I don't know if you guys saw from Southern Miss. Andre Carbello his time in the Sun Belt is over.
It's done.
Again?
The Carbello era at Southern Miss has come to an inglorious end.
He's been dismissed from the team. I mean, I want to make jokes, but that's about as talented a guy as has come through this league. Like, you can talk about, Norchad O'Meara or Terrence Edwards or Jordan Brown. There's some really, really talented players that come through here. And I think Carbello was probably just as talented as those guys and just never put it together to have the kind of success he should have had at any of his stops. And it's disappointing, I think, because I don't think he seems like a nice guy too. Like when you hear him talk and stuff, it just doesn't have that drive, I guess, you need to really be a special player.
Yeah, I know it's probably frustrating, especially at Southern Miss, where they sort of had a bunch of ups and downs while he was there. Remember, was it last year, Shane, where there was something preventing him from getting on the court for most of the season? And then once he got into the lineup, like once whatever trouble that was, I couldn't remember if it was NCAA red tape or an injury. I can't remember what it was. But once he got onto the court, it totally transformed the team. Like Southern Miss became a really dangerous team.
he was one of those guys who I think had to get a waiver for
Yes.
transferring the second time
Yeah.
before that all went out the window. And then was really good.
And you could tell at that time, watching Southern Miss play, he really was the best player on the court. I mean, you Shane kept saying, "Look out for this guy. Once he gets onto the court, I think Southern Miss is going to be a different team." And it was. And the way that Southern Miss was kind of talking, they're like, "Yeah, this is the guy that's going to help us bring Southern Miss back to the upper echelon of the Sun Belt." And it's a damn shame, guys, that it has to end this way. And I did try to get a little more insight into what had happened, but all the stories were behind paywalls, and I'm too damn cheap to find out. Shane, what's the story? What's the inside of that?
I don't know details. I know when Southern Miss played at JMU, he was just a couple games back from his suspension earlier in the season. And Jay Ladner didn't give any details then, but I talked to him, and it basically was sort of like, I think he for one, he was probably on zero tolerance policy from there on. And he did say it wasn't like he did anything bad, illegal, getting into trouble. It was just maybe not doing the kinds of things you need to do to be a leader on the team. Whether, I don't know, taking a stab at it, not showing up on time, not taking the responsibilities you need to do. And I imagine that if I just had to take a guess at it, which I almost hesitate to take a guess, but
Because you're a member of the press and conjecture is not the trade you traded.
Yeah, but I mean, it really seemed like he was probably on a zero tolerance policy from that point on. And, any little thing like being late, those kinds of things were not going to go over well.
So, Tibbs, does that mean that's pretty much the end of Mississippi Southern Miss's run for this year? Because they were kind of one of those teams that could have been a little bit dangerous in the tournament.
You never know. I mean, it could be that maybe he was a distraction in the locker room, and that's what kept them from succeeding. Maybe that's what they needed to really be the team that we all expected them to be. You never know what it is. Like Shane said, if he was kind of a distraction and maybe he was late for practices, for meetings, not going to class, maybe that's what they needed to kind of right the ship and start really excelling here down the stretch, or the final stretch of the season and into the Pensacola tournament.
Yeah, and Southern Miss, they do have 2 point guards. Like Neftali Alvarez is also really good, and maybe he just gets a chance to have the ball in his hands more. Najee Harris is a really good team. If it's a distraction, maybe they are a little bit better off. I don't see them necessarily. They're gonna have to play a lot of game with this new tournament format. It'd be very difficult for Southern Miss to go all the way, but they could disrupt the bracket a little bit because they do still have a lot of talent.
Yeah, and honestly, Shane, and you might disagree with me, or Tibbs too, because you guys, I'm just going to say it. Your acumen for basketball 1,000 times better than mine. But I always thought the problem with Southern Miss at this point was too many point guards. They have too many guards and not enough bigs. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And they
You guys don't agree?
They still don't have the bigs, but I still think, you could have a game where you see those two guys go off and they end up upsetting one of these teams we've been talking about as the potential champion.
And they still have the Denijay Harris. I mean, they still have the top rebounder in the game. So, you're right. They still have plenty of firepower. So you got that going on. Is there anything else in Sunbelt basketball that we need to talk about, Tibbs? I mean, thank God Shane Netlin remembered Curbelo. What else are we missing?
So here's the question I have for you. It seems like James Madison, they do have the 1-game lead. They do have the trip to Monroe and to San Marcos to face Texas State. What does it take, though, for them to claim that regular season title and the number 1 seed? Or do we think that the 3 log jam there of Arkansas State, South Alabama, Troy could still slip in and wind up claiming the regular season title?
Well, somebody posted somewhere the scenarios where it would take for Arkansas State to get the number 1 seed, for instance. And it was like two outlandish scenarios out of 3 had to happen. So it's a real kind of, I don't know, Rubik's Cube of happenstance to get JMU out of there. Shane, have you studied this matrix?
Yeah, to some degree. And, I think if you look at the Ken Palm projections, which I've talked about before.
You love Ken Palm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it as projections more than rankings. Like,
Okay.
it gives you like a good idea what's going to happen in individual games. And, they have JMU being pretty heavy favorite at ULM and, basically like a 50-50 shot at Texas State on the road. JMU, I think the huge thing for them is if they can win one of those 2 games, then they've got a top 2 seed and a bye, which I know everybody would love to claim the championship, but that's really big.
That's a real class, 1 and 2. Yeah.
The other thing, we'll go back to Ken Palm and his projections, is he's still projecting, or his numbers are projecting anyway, a 3-way tie with JMU, Arkansas State, and South Alabama all finishing 13-5. So he, thinking JMU might lose one of those games, and then you got that 3-way tie, which, I think that all ends up being, you all claim a championship, right? If it's a 3-way tie, you all put the banner up and everything, scored out the tiebreakers.
So if you mean a 3-way tie for second, right?
For first.
Oh, for first.
Yeah, that's the projection based on like the algorithm numbers is.
Yeah, but aren't there some tiebreakers that would be involved? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
think everybody who's tied for first can say we were regular season champs.
Wow.
And there's no, I mean, as long as you tie break it to know who gets the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But with the new deal where the regular season conference champ doesn't even get the automatic NIT bid, who cares?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Why even play it, right? Should let AI decide it.
I will say we should care. The regular season champion, I know you don't get the tangible benefit of the NIT thing, but I think the regular season champion should be celebrated. That's an accomplishment that you earned over the period of a few months, as opposed to, not it's great to win the conference tournament, and obviously it's a huge thing to get to the NCAA tournament, but it's also might not be the best team. It might be a team that played good 2 days. And, I understand why people kind of brush off the regular season tournaments. I wish we didn't. I wish we were all bragging about the number of regular season championships our team has. Like, I think that's a huge accomplishment that kind of just gets, unfortunately, mid-majors don't really get to celebrate them the way they should.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the lessening of even the championship game or the tournament games, the conference tournament games, has become even more profound in these upper conferences. Like the SEC, you'll hear a lot of teams like, we don't care about winning the SEC tournament. We'd rather not even be in the SEC tournament. We'd rather just prepare for the NCAA tournament. Like there's no real urgency amongst the SEC, from what I hear, of winning the SEC tournament.
Yeah,
they'd rather go through that rigmarole.
If you go to like a power conference tournament, it really is kind of like that. Like, the top teams, it's fun. It's like the fans all get together and hang out. And it's a party, but like, if you're Houston and you don't win the Big 12 tournament, it doesn't really matter to you.
No.
Or,
if you're just
and you don't win the ACC tournament, like ACC tournament might be a bad example because they do care in the ACC, but if Auburn doesn't win the SEC, they don't care. It's not going to be a big deal. Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame because you should want to be the champion of your conference. That is one thing that's nice about the FunBelt Conference tournament, is that anybody from ULM to JMU are fighting their hardest to win the games in that tournament. So that's really what's special, I think, about the FunBelt.
On the women's side, it seems like it's a quest there. Shane, can James Madison pull off the perfect 18-0, or will they get tripped up somewhere along the way?
Yeah, it is, I think, the quest at this point. This team is remarkably mature and focused to kind of have not had that slip up yet at this point. And I think, you do kind of wonder, they clinched their championship with 2 games. Like, will they come out a little flat next time? I think their senior night will be fine. I think they'll be up for that one. But this is the game I think you have to watch a little bit if it's going to be a little bit of a trap with Georgia State coming to Harrisonburg, because I think they do want to be undefeated, but they also, getting to the NCAA tournament is the big goal for this team. And I think they know that Pensacola is probably the main route to get there. They're probably not going to get in at large. So I'll be interested to see how they end up responding on Wednesday.
Do you know what the net is for JMU women?
They were 51 today.
Oh, so close to that.
Yeah.
I mean,
What's crazy too is they may get a boost in net because NC State, a team they played, beat number 1 Notre Dame today.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah,
they may get a little boost from that. Here's what's crazy though. 5 years ago, there was no net in women's basketball. It was all RPI.
Yeah.
If you went by RPI today, JMU is number 26.
Oh, damn!
That's not going to count for anything in this selection. It's like they'd pretty much be a lock if this was 2019.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So, we talked about Coastal Carolina kind of having a run right now. Is there anyone else kind of challenging the top 2 teams?
Troy's up there. I think, the tournament's probably going to come down to Troy, Coastal, Arkansas State, JMU, maybe Louisiana. They're pretty good, but I think it's going to be one of those 4 teams that ends up winning it.
On the other end of the standings, though, South Alabama currently sitting all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
With 2 games left, they have a game at Louisiana Lafayette and then host Texas State. Can they split those games or sweep them to kind of create a little chaos there in that bottom for the 14, 13, 12 seeds?
I think they can get Texas State at home for sure. Texas State struggled a little bit. They're not too much higher when it comes to the rankings and everything. And South Alabama is a team that's, they've gotten blown out their share, but they also play some close games against some solid teams. Like, they're maybe slightly better than their overall record. I think they have a chance to shake that up a little bit.
I also want to mention something that Coach Hodgson said about the MAC Challenge.
Okay.
He does not like the MAC Challenge. And he made a good point. He was like, you know what? I get it. It was supposed to kind of be a bump for both conferences in terms of net. There was no bump for anybody.
Yeah.
Especially in that second round. And here we are. We're pulling teams out of conference play, and we're pulling them way up north for a meaningless game. If one of my guys got hurt in the MAC Challenge, I mean, that would have been pretty useless. So he was pretty upset about the MAC Challenge. But I'll tell you another thing he also said. He said everybody loves the format of the FunBelt tournament this year. I've heard some people kind of like fans kind of complain about, saying it's just ridiculous. But he said, yeah, most of the coaches, if not all the coaches, love it. So I don't know if you guys have heard anything, I don't know, similar or contradictory to that amongst coaches.
I think it's definitely become an online meme where it's the gauntlet into the very end there. But yeah, I mean, it's as much as I don't like it is what it is.
Okay.
But I get it because we need to protect those top few seeds to give us the best chance to not be in Dayton for a play-in game, not be a automatic 16 seed, but try to get up into that 12 to 10 range right now for seeding.
So you personally not a fan of this Hunger Games format where
not at all.
Oh, okay. Tips? I mean, Shane?
No, I like it. I think, because not only does it like protect those teams that they have a better chance to win. You also, like, no offense, Tibbs, Arkansas State's got a good net. They hurt just by playing ULM in an early round game. Like, even if they beat them, and, like, to take those games out of the equation helps the conference too. Like, you don't want JMU, like I said, for the women, it's small, tiny shot at an at-large. You don't want them playing South Alabama because it doesn't do anything good for their net, even if they beat them by 25. Like, just eliminate that game, and it really helps.
Oh, how the Maya and Heidi are. I hope y'all stay atop the standings for forever, Shane.
Tibbs, when you have an elite team that you cover like Tibbs and I, or Shane and I do, I mean, we begin to form these much more sophisticated opinions about formats for the tournament that probably you don't understand, being someone who covers a team that really has no shot at excellence in any form or fashion. So what you truly are handicapped in this discussion.
Hey, it wasn't that long ago that JMU was killing people's strength of schedule in men's basketball. This is a kind of a new phenomenon for the men's basketball.
Jeremy, to quote former ULM baseball coach Bruce Petty, GFY.
I know what those letters mean. Speaking of baseball, baseball's been pretty damn good for the Sun Belt. Am I wrong?
Of course you're wrong, but no, there have been some great games. Coastal Carolina went down to Jacksonville, Florida, got some big wins there over Ohio State, over NC State.
Yes.
They also were able to pick up some wins against Washington, against Kansas State. They're definitely the team that's on fire, but to me, Southern Miss, flawless and swept everyone's whooping stick of Louisiana Tech over the weekend. What more could you want other than them getting a big non-conference game this upcoming week against in-state foe Ole Miss?
Yeah, that would have been cool. And you talked about Louisiana beating Nebraska earlier. Nebraska, I believe, is a top 25 team, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so here we go. The Sun Belt, which I felt got off to an unnecessarily slow start last year, getting a pretty hot start this year. Even ULM is winning.
Except against Mother Nature that washed out Game 3 against Houston Christian.
Yeah,
so it was a series split 1-1.
Okay.
Nobody wins against Mother Nature in February baseball.
No, Mother Nature undefeated at every baseball game. Yeah, I'm just going to say it because I know you guys want to hear it from me. Arkansas State not doing very well at baseball. But we all knew that. Picked last in the Sun Belt. That's all we need to say about it. We don't need to talk any more about it. Let's not dwell on it, Shane. Let's not talk any more about the failures of Red Wolves baseball, Tibbs. I'm over it. I don't need to talk about it. We don't have to say another thing.
How is A-State softball?
Even worse. Winless on the season.
What's happening with bowling right now?
Doing well. Just kind of bowling along. I'm waiting for the April for the big NCAA tournament. We'll see the seedings. It'll be good. Yeah. And Vanderbilt and Nebraska.
JMU and Georgia Southern, both ranked dodgeball programs.
I did not know that. Hey, do we know of any Sun Belt teams that are getting a flag football team? Like, I've heard that's now an NCAA sport. I know, like Hendrix College, or maybe it's Harding or Hendrix in Arkansas is putting one together. I didn't know if anybody in and around the Sun Belt was thinking about it.
Haven't heard that yet.
All right. We'll keep that.
Haven't heard that. Did see that it was now a sanctioned LHSAA sport, so it will be coming to Louisiana high schools. I don't know if it's this year or next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of the fastest growing sports out there, which
are they going to play ball?
I hope so. They should play before every college, like before the regular football goes out, like the game before, like it's like a tune-up.
Just curious, if I was a volleyball coach, I wouldn't like it too much if
no. Yeah, you're right.
But
you guys ever play the flag football?
Yeah, it was an intramural sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was big. Yeah, when I went to school, you got an intramural team. Brother broke his nose playing flag football. Got kicked in the face. So
I
it's
had 3
rough.
interceptions once.
Man, glory days, Thibodeau. 3 interceptions at the flag football. That's pretty good. Don't you wish like the regular football coach was there to see that and go, we need to put that kid out at safety.
Yeah, maybe so. But that was the barbarian D1 days where
Okay.
we were independents, and I don't know if I would have wanted to be out there for those days.
Well, they just live in the glory that you had.
What else do we have to talk about?
I think next week we're going to have a lot to talk about because we got games. What now? It's Tuesday and Friday now for basketball.
Tuesday, Friday of this week.
I think
Yeah.
there's some Wednesday games too. It's a
Okay.
busy week, but
But
all
it all ends on Friday.
yeah.
It all ends Friday. Okay. So
Yep.
by
Give everybody an extra day to get
Saturday,
to Pensacola.
so does that mean we have a emergency Saturday get together where we talk about the seedings, or do we just wait until Sunday and do it then?
I think we do a normal Sunday.
Oh,
That
right.
way it's all settled. Shane is lathered up in sunscreen as he hits the Pensacola beach.
And that will be the 220th episode, the very special 220th episode of FunBelt Podcast.
We're
So-
waiting until we hit 223 to make that announcement again.
Oh, that's very good.
We got to close it out on some plugs, promos, and parting shots. Jeremy, what do you have for us?
All right, you heard me talk about Reacher last week. I watched the first 3 episodes, and let me tell you guys, it's just as stupid as ever. It's the dumbest show. The whole thing opens up with this impossibly dangerous plan that not only endangers Reacher, of course. I'm fine with Reacher being in danger, but endangers the public at large. I mean, there are bullets flying, there's cars crashing, there are innocents everywhere, and they're all doing it, I don't know, to catch some sort of criminal. But they really put in danger about 20 people just for this. They're really the criminals of the show. Reacher and his little band of rogue cops. But anyway, you just go you just trust in Reacher because he kind of knows what he's doing. Anyway, he's done that thing where he's broken people's legs so he can fold them into a tight place because he's super strong. I mean, that's why you love Reacher, because it's so damn stupid. You don't have to think a bit. You know, like when man became Homo sapien and they had to deal with this big brain that required a lot of energy to maintain. That's why you have to eat so much. You had to keep this brain going. I tell you, if you watch an hour of Reacher, it's like a diet. It sucks out all that energy because it's so stupid. So anyway, watch Reacher. I've watched the first 3 episodes. I'm dumber than ever as a result, and I'm feeling great about it.
Okay.
Reacher.
Shane, what do you have to top that?
I'm the opposite. Yeah.
What could possibly be
What
the
I
opposite?
watched recently was a 42-year-old movie that I just happened to find flipping around the streaming sites and hadn't seen War Games in a long time.
Yeah.
And kind of shocking to me to watch that. And, I remember the old scenes where Matthew Broderick is, hacking the payphone with the beer tab and things like that. It really, really holds up. This is kind of like the original discussion on AI and if this is something we should be using and what's the detriments to taking the human element out of things and stuff like that. Go watch War Games. It's for free. It's on Tubi right now.
Oh, you love
He's stuck on Tubi.
Tubi. They should be a sponsor because I'm giving them a lot of free plug here. But yeah, go look that one up if you haven't seen it ever, or if it's one of those ones you haven't seen since you were in the 90s and it was on TNT or TBS all the time. You haven't watched it in a while. Go watch because it's shocking how well this movie from 1983 is relevant today.
I
Most
tell you-
even dealing with technology, like you would think it would be completely dated, and the equipment looks different, but the discussion is very, very relevant today.
There's two reasons why I like that movie, Shane. One, Dabney Coleman's in it, and if you were a movie filmed in the early '80s, Dabney Coleman being in your movie was the sign of quality. And two, like if you see movies that dealt with computers back in the early '80s, you get like Weird Science and some others like that. Like most of those movies made it look like you can just do anything with a computer. Like you can build like life or whatever if you just tap a few keystrokes. You were right. You're right about war games. It is very kind of true to how computers actually work and what you can do with them. Like it wasn't like some impossible scenario that Matthew Broderick was working with. It was kind of funny. He was changing grades in the computer system, and that's kind of funny. But it really, you're right. It holds up, and it does it has this sort of modern. It still has a very relevant and modern slant on today's AI. Tibbs, how are you going to top that? There was so much wisdom in Shane Metlin's what we got plugs, promos, and parting shots. There is no way you can come up with like a corny joke to sum that all up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Because what's old is new again, is what I heard out of all that.
Okay. All right.
And the latest craze in the Mojave Desert is for people to jump on trains, waiting for them to get into the desert, cutting the air brakes so that they come to a screeching halt, allowing them to essentially go shopping for free on these chains in the desert between California and Arizona. Most recently, the theft of Nike sneakers reaching a value of $2 million, according to investigators.
Wow. $2 million
Who knew that just going back, like Shane said, back in time, we're now back to robbing trains, guys.
Yes. And what a fun way to get thrown in prison for.
Is that still like some kind of weird law on the books? I mean, I know in Oklahoma you get like a shooting at sundown for stealing copper or something. What's the penalty for stealing sneakers off the train in Arizona?
I don't know. I thought the Pinkerton company had stopped all train robberies back with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So I don't know.
Shane, we now found a way for us to fund us all going to Pensacola, though.
There you go.